This time we'll hear from guests. First one's Catherine Sexton.
Hello, I'm Catherine Sexton. I'm your Stewart County Executive Director of your chamber. I know that you're passing on your commission committee members today, and I just wanted to, I was going past, this is gonna be, tourism's gonna be something we would like to really utilize this year, since we are doing a lot of new things and new events. I spoke to Brian McCutcheon, over at Fort Donaldson, and he would like it to say Fort Donaldson Rep versus his name. And in the past, you have on here the City of Dover Mayor. In the past, it's been the City of Dover Rep. And also, it has been, you have the Cumberland City Mayor, and it's in the past been the Cumberland City Rep. My question is, just because I know the mayors have a lot to do and all, is that something we could still have as a representative from them versus the mayor itself? And if we could change Brian McCutcheon to Fort Donaldson Rep, because, he has two other people that come to a lot of our meetings when he can't. And also, I was speaking to a lot of the others, and they said that Terry Fletcher's now a truck driver and travels a lot. I didn't know if that was something that we could, maybe evaluate with him, if he would be able to be here for those meetings. And the others were fine. That was all. Is that all? All right.
Second is Chief Dennis Humboldt.
Good evening. Being on the clock, I'm going to get right to the point. For those of you who don't know me personally, I apologize ahead of time for having to speak tonight. I do not want to. Those that do, a person that wakes up every day, thanks the good Lord for a new day, new opportunity, try to find good things to do. I wish what I had to say does not have to be said, but it does. I took notes so I could stay on point, being on the clock for 3 minutes. I know a lot of people have heard a lot of stories about dispatch. I'm confident that most people do not know all the facts. I'd like to point out that Mayor Fitzhugh, Administrator Parks, myself, and much of our staff that wanted to work with everybody. We tried everything as ways to think of. Last summer, a few people created a new dispatch radio channel. It was done without our knowledge. Our department found out about it less than 24 hours before it went active, despite the information that was put out to the public. We were not told anything about this channel. As far as we can tell, pretty much every radio in the county, first responders has this channel. It appears that Dover was intentionally left out. Knowing that Dover team members, emergency personnel, have no ability to communicate with any other responder in the county puts every one of our members' lives in serious danger. We did take the high road and sat back, took the figurative punches, never said anything publicly. What is the justification for this? Why does this happen? What needs to be done for everybody to get back on the same page? I'm actually asking because I don't know anymore. We have responded to every request, done everything we could possibly do. I've heard all kinds of reasons. The story changes every time, at least 3 times that I'm aware of. We had a meeting not too long back with Mr. Mathis, who said at any point in the emergency, we can merge the channels. It has not happened. Finally, we did get a merge for one of the incidents. It doesn't work. I'm curious. I would like to actually know, why are all the federal agencies paid for with new programming, but we're not? Is that my timer? Okay. What are you going to say? There is nothing I want to do here more to take care of our public safety. But to be able to do this and go to bed at night knowing that everybody's life is in more danger because our officers cannot communicate. We cannot hear, we don't know what's going on. We have unable to respond and provide assistance for other agencies because of it. Second, meeting after meeting after meeting trying to work this out. I am no longer going to stand down or stand by and watch this reckless and ridiculous thing continue on. It is offensive to every member of this county that they cannot get equal response in Dover. I am willing to meet again, but under one condition, and that's that every meeting from here on out is in the public eye. Thank you.
Seven oh four, guys, we'll call this meeting to order. If you don't mind, rise. Invocation by Commissioner Peter.
Holy Father, as we come together tonight to take care of the county's business, I'd like you, Lord, to reach down and touch them folks as Lord is hit by this hurricane. Lord, bless them, heal them, meet their every need. Father, I do pray for Steve, the search for Steve. Lord, that there's some closure in this. We find out what happened to Steve. Father, I do pray, Lord, tonight, as we meet as a commission, that we take care of business decently and in order, and if we disagree, we just agree to disagree and go our way. Father, I do pray a blessing upon Stewart County in every way, that we can work together in all departments and all ways. I pray, Father, tonight, Lord, that you'll bless our military wherever they are tonight. Bless their families, Lord, that they're separated from. Father, bless this state and bless everybody here in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Commissioner Watkins, my name is the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ma'am, will you address the roll call, please?
Elijah Thomas.
Here.
Brian Teeber.
Yo.
Rick Joyner.
Here.
Drue Shepherd.
Here.
Shane Keatts.
Here.
Eric Watkins.
Here.
Terry Pitchu.
Yeah.
Vince Gray.
Here.
Archie Cryer.
Here.
Melissa Fields. Bradley Jones.
Here.
Clint Mathis. Mark George. Alexis Taylor. All present.
Number 5 is the approval of minutes. You look over your agendas. Would anybody like A, B, C, or D stricken from the approval?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Mr. Warner, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 6 is the approval of the quarterly reports. If all of you've looked over these, and if you have any questions, will they be directly to you? I'm assuming. Ms. Taylor? You got the hand. If you have any questions regarding the approval of the quarterly reports, they'll be answered by Ms. Heather.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 7 on the agenda is county officials' annual reports as filed with the county court clerk. It's for your review only. However, if you have any questions, these will be directed at Ms. Natalie. There being any questions?
Motion to approve.
I don't think we approve these. I think they're just for your review in case you had any questions that we would have to send back. Like your enthusiasm, but. Number 8 is the approval of internal and external committees of the Stewart County Commission as recommended by the nominating committees. Discussion on number 8.
Yes. In the budget finance, I talked to Clint today, not a all person, Clint's a good man, a good commissioner, but he's a department head. I just don't feel like the department head should be on the budget finance committee.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that.
You can?
So I totally get that. I understand that we all, a lot of us see that conflict of interest. Certainly, someone like me, I can't vote on the emergency management budget. Just like Drew can't vote on the highway department. Just like you may not be able to vote on the sheriff department since his license is way there. Just like Mr. Watkins can't vote on transportation items. Just like Mr. Keatts can't vote on the sheriff's office. So if this committee thinks that I should
different than anybody else.
I'm sorry, I don't see any difference, like Mr. Tebow, I don't see any difference. I mean, one thing that we could do, because there are so many different people in different organizations, different departments on this board, is, you know, perhaps we can just start voting on every department separately. And that way, you don't always have to pull out, for example, Clint wouldn't always have to pull out his to vote on separately. Let's just start voting on departments individually and separately, that way you can, you don't abstain from your vote or whatever that you have to do to be able to, you know, just be transparent in that vote.
At least disqualify themselves from the vote.
I'll go along with the group, whatever the group wants, I just kind of express that. You know, as much distrust of the public has in government now, we can be a little more transparent. Including the department head, that's the issue. I know a lot of them have issues, you know, with different things, we got different things, but we're not department heads.
Mr. Shepherd, it's your right to put that in the form of a motion. If you receive a second, it will become a vote.
I'll
The
put
entire committee, but that will be completely up to you. That's your right.
I'll put that in a motion that Clint be removed from consideration of the budget plan.
Does everyone understand the motion that's on the table?
And here.
Is it? I know. Does everyone understand that the motion on the table is asking for, Commissioner Clint Mathis to be removed from the Budget and Finance Committee due to a conflict, with his title? And if you understand that, do I have a second? Motion dies for lack of second. At this time, is there any more discussion on any other committee?
Mr. Mayor, when I was campaigning, I spoke to a young man who was interested in getting involved in politics, involved in government, and as a matter of fact, right now he's in Washington DC. And I spoke to him and thought that maybe he could be put on one of our committees. I know that I emailed him, told him that we were voting on those today, and I was wondering if, maybe we could add him to tourism. He's a young person, maybe he has some really good ideas for bringing things into our county. But just, one that is gonna meet, so we can see the process, and, just see what it's like. And he may one day become a county commissioner or a mayor or anything like that.
Melissa, what is it?
His name's Joseph Meyer, right? Is that-
Meyer.
Yeah.
If you'll, I didn't get any phone calls, however, I will point out that a lot of you are on the same number of committees. I did that on purpose because we cut 4 committees that haven't met in quite some times, all the way back to Mayor Joyner. I spoke with him and asked him why, so we cut those committees, so I wanted each one of you to be involved as much as I can. So if you look at this and say there's no new people, or there's some of the, I spoke with pretty much everybody on here that I could get a hold of. So I did not speak with that young man.
No, and I'm sorry, I should have had him call you, but I know that I spoke to him, and then, bringing this up with this committee, that, I just said that maybe I should bring it later.
We can bring it up later. I would prefer sticking to business at hand, get that business done with.
I will go back to, if you would like to put that in motion form, we would entertain a motion to add him to a committee. Will that have to go back before the nominating committee to come back before, am I saying that correct?
No,
Unless the commission would want to vote on it tonight, is that?
my understanding, as long as full commission's here, you can vote on anything you want. You don't have to go to commission.
I would like to speak with him. Would you be opposed to us striking the tourism committee out tonight until I can speak with him, or is that, if it's just your recommendation to put him on there and the commission votes for it, that's fine too. If you would like to put it in motion for him, if you would not like to put it in motion for him, I need to speak with him, and we can pull tourism out and vote on all the rest.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to add him to the tourism committee. I know that, the tourism committee is gonna want it to meet more often, and I'd like him to be on a committee that's gonna meet.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Fields to add Mr. Joseph Meyer to the tourism committee. Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Joyner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We will add Mr. Joseph Meyer to the tourism committee.
And I'll tell him to get a hold of you, so.
That's fine. Any further discussion on committees
Make a motion, we pass the committee that's.
as recommended?
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor to pass committees, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ten on your agenda is the approval terms for the library board members. Local board, their terms expires 2023. Does any have any questions? Sorry, I did that last time too. We'll skip through this real quick. Number 9, approve 2022 agricultural extension committees. You guys had a chance to look over that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Great. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Back to number 10 again. That will be the approval terms for the library board members. You've had a chance to look at them. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Agenda item number 11, I was contacted a couple of weeks ago by Commissioner Fields, and she would like to discuss the property tax freeze and discuss forming a committee. I was informed that there has been a committee started or suggested, but not fulfilled. So at this time, I will yield the floor to Commissioner Fields.
Yeah, last year, and I think Margie said it was in February, Commissioner Black brought up, maybe forming a committee to talk about the tax freeze and see how it would affect our community and our county budget. We all voted to form that committee. There's been several people that have asked me about why the committee wasn't formed, or is it going to be formed? So I emailed the mayor and told him that, we voted to do it, so, and like I say, when I don't know if it's fiscally possible to do something like that, that's what the committee's supposed to look into. I know that perhaps, I know that Commissioner Black would have said that he would be on it. I don't know if he would still be interested in that, but, and then, our, Martha, those, people from Martha's office, but that, like I say, it was just something that we did vote to make a committee, and, people have asked me about it, so I wanted to bring it up.
I make a motion that we put you in charge of the committee and look into it. That's a motion.
Ms. Margie has pulled the minutes for that meeting. I'll read section 1. See the date on here. A property tax freeze implementation committee is hereby established. The committee will consist of the county mayor, the county trustee, the assessor of property, the finance director or director of accounts and budgets, and the following members of the county legislative body: Jan Black, Howard Lee Joe, and Randall Redmond. That was the minutes read, so that's, we didn't need to. So, could you repeat your motion, Mr.
I
Peter?
make the motion, that Melissa Fields head up this committee. Find people interested in it, research it, dig off in, do it, and report back to the commission.
Correct. We have to address the motion on the floor first, correct? You guys understand the motion? Do I have a second on that motion from Commissioner Teemer?
I'll say.
Now, is there any discussion on that motion?
I think that maybe going against the.
Will we be reinventing the wheel considering this was a resolution? Or can we just send this to the commission for a vote to replace, or, I'm kinda at a loss here. I know it's a needed thing, but, let's. Resolution was passed, so I think what we will, well, we have to vote on before voting. We have a motion and a second on the floor. We have a motion and a second on the floor. We need to address that first. If there's no more discussion on this, I'll call it for a vote. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay. That's addressed. Now, we'll go back to the resolution.
You're welcome.
The resolution states who's on this committee, so therefore it is set up. The legislative body members were, Jan Black, Howard Lee Jobe, and Randall Redmond. They are no longer with us. I have no problem with them serving on the board. I don't know if y'all, I mean, that's, but that'll be up for vote.
Does it have to be commissioner?
So, if I'm reading the resolution correctly, actually, I'm not gonna read it, I'm gonna play smart. It says legislative body, so that means it has to be. So, the resolution actually says legislative body. And the following members of the county legislative body, I would think we would have to renominate legislative body members for that committee. Take nominations. At this time, I'll take nominations.
Melissa Fields?
Second both of them.
Yeah.
Second for both of them.
Did you hear the third one?
Bradley Jones.
Bradley Jones. I have recommendations for Melissa Fields, Rick Joyner, and Bradley Jones. Any other nominations?
I'll second
Motion to nomination cease.
All right. We have a motion for nominations to cease. Do I have a second? At this time, we will vote on Commissioner Fields, Commissioner Joyner, Commissioner Jones, Commissioner Terry Fitzhugh.
You gotta have a motion to do that first, and you got one. You gotta vote on the nomination.
At this time, we will vote on the cease of the nominations for this committee. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Now, I'll make a motion to accept those.
Motion to accept those four. Do I have a second? Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you so very much. I will get you a copy of this, if you. This time we'll go to item number 12, and it's the approval of budget amendments. And I would turn that over to the acting chair, Commissioner Watkins.
All right, we got 6 pages of budget amendments here. We'll go over them page by page. If you have questions, you just ask, Ms. Heather will have to answer some of them. Department heads are here that may have to answer some of these questions. But anyway, we'll go page by page, and the first page, none of these have any new funds. These are all line item transfers. The first one is the county clerk's office. Ms. Natalie is gonna use, some money from an employee. She was an employee of the office when she got elected. Instead of replacing herself right now, she wants to use those funds to, do some upgrades in the office where we don't get, audit findings. We got audit findings for there for a while, so she wants to upgrade the office so everybody's not working out of the same drawer, and it will be an improvement. So there's no new funds there, it's just moving from one line to the next. The second one is the sheriff's office. This is also a line item transfer for some law enforcement equipment. Third one is no new funds, it's other charges, some workman's comp, stuff, insurance, on a bond, on a corporate surety bond, and so there's no new money there. Any questions on page 40? All right, page 41. This is, starts out with circuit court. They have a sequestered jury trial in November, scheduled for November. This is new funds. They'll have to put them up in a hotel and provide food for them and pay them. The state will reimburse up to $1,000 a day for this for 15 days. So this is new funds. The second one is also circuit court. We have a new circuit court clerk. He needed to have some training. He didn't have any funds in his budget for training, so he's asked for $2,000. This is new money. The third is Sheriff's Department. This is a donation received in the last fiscal year. It does say it's coming from the fund balance, but it was put in the fund balance last year. The donation was received for that's Dog Paw Patrol Reserve Funds, and that's $5,000, but it was a donation to cover that in last fiscal year. The next item is also the Sheriff's Office. It is a donation for SRO equipment, use in school safety, $2,500. That is a donation, so there's no new money there. The next one is insurance recovery. There's no new money there. That is on 3 damaged patrol cars. 2 were repaired and 1 was totaled. The next one is also the Sheriff's Office. It's a public safety grant. It's 100% grant, so there's no new money there. Any questions on page 41? All right, page 42. This is for the health department. This is their DGA grant. This is for the county employees that work at the health department. This is 100% grant funded, so there's no new money there. The next one is also like the sheriff's department. This is for the library. They had a donation last fiscal year for some more memorial reserve items. Anyway, the donation was from last fiscal year. It's $1,381, and they're going to spend it this fiscal year. So there is no new money back. The next one, Ms. Heather, you may have to explain this one. This is maintenance and effort for the library. If we appropriate money for the library, we can't go any less than that this year than we did last year. And, because of the maintenance of effort, she had an employee that left that was, on the insurance. The new employee, did not take the insurance, but for paperwork reasons, she has to put the money in the line item. It will go back to fund balance at the end of the fiscal year. There's really no new money there, but, because of the auditor, that's the way they will present it. The next item is EMS. This is all expenses due to, the EMS director sent a ambulance and crew to, the hurricane area in Florida. And, this is expenses from that. The county will get, this money back from FEMA. It may take a little while to get it back, but, anyway, they are there now, and I agree that maybe some more of these coming. Is that right? Agree?
Say again.
I was gonna say, will there be more expenses coming from this?
She should have a good estimate on
Okay.
what we.
Okay. All right.
It's a 14-day floor.
This will be grant, funded from FEMA. All right. Any questions on page 42? Page 43 is, the highway department. The first item on there is, coming from fund balance, that's $400. This is the county official has to be paid 10% higher than the other general officers, and, so they're just trying to, get him, his, line item up to what it's supposed to be. The other things on there are all, just budget transfers, line item transfers, so there's no new money in any of those. Any questions for the highway department? Next page, this is, general purpose school. The first line is, some, Mr. Williams, that was insurance recovery.
Insurance reimbursement.
Insurance reimbursement, it goes to special ed, there's no new money in that line. Next line, when we passed the budget, the BEP funds hadn't been allocated, they have now. You can see there's a $283,000 increase over last year. So what they're doing there is putting that $283,000 in the appropriate lines. There is no, it is new money, but it's new money to us. So, anyway, any questions for general purpose schools? Okay, last page, page 45, this is the federal budget for the school system. This is all grants. You can see the first one going to, it's a literacy training teacher grant. The second one's math implementation support grant. Both of these are 100% grant funded. So there's no money coming from the school system in this. That's page 45. Any questions on that?
Very good, got a question.
All right.
On a lot of these budget minutes, how come it's saying other, and it's not like specified out like all the other minutes?
All right, Mr. Quinn, you may need to.
On the, why does it say other contracted services?
That, and then the other salary, wages, and other contract services.
Yeah, the other contracted services, that's just the budget category that we have, and the 72220 is special ed, it's other contracted services. It's things like, occupational therapy, physical therapy that come into the school system. That's what that money's used for.
And then the other salaries and wages.
Other salaries and wages is where the state asks us to put that to differentiate it from regular salaries.
So it's not going like specific people, or is it?
It's going to specific people. I mean, the literacy training is going to reading teachers, and the math implementation grant's going to an outside party that comes in and provides the training on the math implementation.
Okay. I just think, I just didn't know, I seen a lot of other, kind of seen dates and didn't know where it was going.
Those are just categories that are in the chart of accounts that we use.
All right, any other questions on any of the budget pages? Not? Chairman?
Motion approved.
Motion approved from Mr. Shepherd. Have a second. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Second motion on the floor, we will take any further discussion, first off? Any further discussion? I would ask for a roll call vote.
Rick Joyner,
Yes.
Drue Shepherd,
Yes.
Shane Keatts,
Yes.
Eric Watkins, Terry Fitchie,
Yes.
Vince Gray,
Yes.
Archie Pryor,
Yes.
Melissa Fields,
Yes.
Riley Jones, Clint Mathis,
Yes.
Mark George,
Yes.
Alexis Taylor,
Yes.
Elijah Thomas,
Yes.
Brian Teeler.
Yep.
Unanimous.
Thank you, guys. Item number 13 on your agenda is to approve the renewal of notaries. We have Miss Lucy Wallace up for renewal.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Watkins,
Second?
second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item number 14 is the approval of the official statutory bond for county public office. This will be Miss Laura Crane. You have a copy of her bond issuance back here.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Joyner.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 15 is the Athletic Association of Stewart County Agreement Review and Approval. Actually, that approval probably I should have gotten Ms. Marty to take that out, because we're discussing it to see what questions you may have before we send this to the AASC board to vote on for themselves. At our Parks and Recreations meeting, the Parks and Recs Committee, along with the AASC, found it time that the AASC turn over their land to the county. For reasons such as, mainly for grants. I'll let the chairman of that board, Mr. Gray, comment on that if you would.
Yeah, well, Park and Recreation, we've been trying for probably 2 years to get the Athletic Association to give us the property. As long as they have the property, all we can do is give them what was given, when they're 18,000 or whatever, and they can't do nothing. If the county owns the property, but they're still running it, we can get grants. You know, like I said, we're trying to work on getting a grant now where, you know, they get 500,000 or $1 million. But as long as the ASC owns the property, we couldn't do nothing on that side. So we finally come to agreement, and we was gonna give them a letter of intent that we'd like to get the land if they give it to us, and I think the ASC voted for the same thing. So all we're doing is trying to make sure we improve the parks for the kids. Right now, the ballpark, they ain't been able to do nothing pretty much every year unless we give them a little extra money. That's how they got the restroom put on, so we're hoping by the county owning it and the park, and they still running it, that we'll be able to get some grants and make some big improvements to the ball field.
The reason we're doing it in this fashion, it was, our legal counsel's idea. If you have any questions, we can address the questions. We're gonna send it to the Athletic Association to make sure they agree with this. They approved it with contingencies of this and, agreement to, the maintenance agreement. The county, I was very, you know, I really wanted them to understand, we don't have time to mow and weed eat and keep up that park. We don't want anything to do with that. We want to help the children of the community have better resources down there. And eventually one day build off of that property that you guys bought. So that's the reason why we're doing this. We don't want to take anything over. We don't want to mow, weed eat, fix fields, line fields. We don't want any part of that. We want to help them get grants. That's what we want to do.
Is
And
that
get new
in the
lights
agreement?
and fix ditches and all of those things. You're gonna have questions and you can come up with them. This is not a vote for you guys tonight, however, I want you to look over it, be comfortable with it, write down any questions you have. We're gonna send it to them. Hopefully, when this comes back in December, it will have a maintenance agreement with it. And, that'll kind of give you guys a little bit more leeway of knowing what we are. Anytime we take over land, I feel like we're gonna have some sort of liability. So money-wise, I spoke with, Seals Insurance Agency. this is strictly a ballpark quote, and I hate to even say it out loud, because that's how ballpark it is. It was right around the $2,000 mark for a fairly nice size liability policy down there. It's not an umbrella, but it is similar to an umbrella. It means that it covers the buildings, fields, it covers it down there just for a safety standpoint for us, you know. So just wanted you to know about that. I will get you a better figure by December. I will get you the actual figure that will cost the county, but yes.
No, the reason I wanted to put it before y'all, and Mayor did too, is just to make sure, like Mayor said, when you take on land, you're taking on responsibility, and part of the athletic association's contingency is that it remains a ball field. So if the county accepts this land, they got to keep it a ball field. Obviously, the intent is for the AASC to take it as a 501c3, and you fund through the nonprofit that you have been in the past several years. But the AASC dissolves, it's the county's responsibility to keep it as a ball field or a ballpark. So that doesn't mean you can't do more, but the intent, in my understanding of this, now this was written by a third party, does not represent the county, does not represent the ball fields. I did not want to write this agreement because I'm the county attorney, and I've also been on that AAC board since Mayor Rick Joyner was there. So I want to make sure, I am looking at it, and I am working with Mr. Brett Young, which is with Fargo and Ross, I believe, in Clarksville. So I'm working with them to make sure both intents are met. But if you read through it, you know, you want to make sure you feel like the county is obviously getting the best deal for your side, and the ball field is probably going to do the same thing. So, but when you take on property, no matter what it is, ball field or not, you're taking on liability, which there's insurance for, but you're also taking on accounting liabilities too, because you're going to have to fund it to keep it going. Whether that be electric bill, whether that be paying somebody to mow it if the ball field's not there, however that is. There's also a reverter clause into this. If it's not, it reverts back to the AASC or a like organization. And then also in here, they put in a right to, not necessarily buy it back, but a right of first refusal. So if the county decided to sell it to the Little League Association, who could run it as a ball field, the ASC reserves the right to come in and say, no, we want it back. That would have to be kind of worked out, so I would, if anybody's got any questions, we can definitely get those answered, hopefully. And there's one more thing, he did mention the maintenance agreement, which I feel should lay out the duties a little more detailed as far as what the county would be obligated to, what the ASC would be obligated to, because they will be taking in fees that they will be obligated to use that for the upkeep and stuff in the park as well, so. Just make sure you look over it, make sure if there's any questions, there's no dumb questions, because when you bring two boards together, there's all kinds of questions that need to be talked about, so.
I think my biggest question on this is, what defines a ball field?
Well, I think it kind of talks about that in there. It talks about playable baseball and softball facility. So I think, you know, most of the time in the way the courts are this day and age, they're gonna look at the intent, and the intent is what it was when the county took it, which is what it is right now. Now, I think that could be improved on, moved around, but I think if the county went in, started trying to make it one little ball field, and it's, you know, I think that could run into a.
Right, it could be greater, but it can't be less.
Yeah, and I think you could do less as long as it was around the facility of a ball field. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, if you wanna improve a field and maybe make two fields, one big field, you know.
Gotcha.
I think it would require a close working relationship with ASC, a report, just like y'all have the budget, each department head that comes forward. They'd have to present budgets, you know, and show the county, any large, in this agreement, any large improvements would have to be county. Something, so, and Ms. Heather could probably speak more to the worries or concerns that she might have from a budgeting standpoint. If Mayor is okay with her speaking, I think it's best to get all that on the table and make sure we understand the concerns of an operational standpoint.
No, I'm definitely okay with her speaking. Until you have a maintenance agreement set forth, I don't think all of your questions can't be answered, because mine aren't, and I was part of writing this, so. Until we have a maintenance agreement with this, I don't know that it would do, to go back and answer a little bit of Mr. Thomas's, number 4, it shows where we have the ability to upgrade at any time. If, for example, we got a grant, and then we wanted to go down there and put a splash pad, that would be all right. We would want a partnership to work with them, you know, because that's what we want to do as a county. But I don't want you to get to thinking that if we wanted to put a splash pad down there and there's ample room or a walking track, that they could say, no, we don't want that, they do not have that ability.
It's gonna be the county property, just like the soccer field is a county property, so they're just trying to work it, take some of the burden of the operational off of the county, because they can work it how they have.
Want to speak to how it's divided now, as far as?
Right now, the soccer field on one side, if you look at it, it's 10 acres. The county already owns that. We bought that from the Shirley Wallace up there. And the ball fields on that side is the AASC. How many acres is that?
I think it's 14 is with the deed, but it's an old deed, so it might not be exactly right.
And it can use some improvement with lights and stuff, but mostly improvements would be, you know, besides once you get the lights and everything, you got the ball fields, once you got the soccer field. There's pretty much nothing there right now.
Which I'm not part of it.
And to your point, out of one place that states that has to say baseball, softball, t-ball, football, soccer, and basketball, but to be above that afterwards.
Right, but I think what I was getting more towards was, you can, and as Charles said, you can combine 2 fields and make that a football, baseball, t-ball, whatever field you wanted to.
Yeah.
So, but then, as he said, you can make it more, but it can't be less.
Yeah.
So,
I think a lot of you, if you look around the county, which you probably don't, unless you're like me, but a lot of churches are like old church, they say they're, as long as they become a church, well, a lot of times the church will let one building become something a little different, because the church is okay with it, you know what I mean? So, you can stretch it, but if you get too far, you can run into litigation, but, and I will, you know, talking about money, you know, sports stuff is expensive. Those mounds down there, you know, of course, that would be on them, but ultimately the county owns this property, so that dirt's expensive, it's $800-900 a load, you know, mounds are $4,000-5,000, lights, to replace all the lights down there, you're looking at probably $800,000. So that's the reason grants are so important, but ultimately, if the AASC says we're not working no more, it's gonna come back to the county. Now, the county could obviously give it to another organization or give it back to them, or, you know, there's ways to work it, but you gotta take in money, liability, PR, public opinion, because I mean, there's a lot of, every kid that plays any sports in this county has sometimes probably been down there, you know, at some point in time, so, something to think about.
Charles, we are gonna require that the AASC continues to hold on to an insurance policy for themselves.
Yes, that's, in the discussions, that's definitely one of my, I mean, they're gonna carry liability, they're gonna carry accident for the kids. Little League is still involved down there, so they have an umbrella policy over top of the ASC. The football organization has its own, so they're, yeah, definitely, you wanna have, but counties still have to carry their own, because they're ultimately the owner of it, so. But, you know, kinda similar if you've ever rented a home, you know, they carry renter's insurance, but you still have to carry your own, so. And then the budgeting side of it, they would have to keep books, report to the budget conference.
Or will we be leasing it to that way, association, even though it's county owned, it lease it back to them, let them run it?
My understanding, the intent of that maintenance agreement is to be a lease, to operate as a lease, to give it back to them, and then there's some language about how it's gonna be funded, because the ball field doesn't have the money to fund something like this by themselves. If it wasn't for the county, like Ken said, they'd probably shut down years ago, you know, so. Yeah, it's gonna be very similar to a lease, and if the commission kinda insinuates that, I think it should be maybe titled that, a maintenance/lease agreement, to where it can. The biggest thing is you just gotta understand, like, the county owns that property, no different than right here. We lease this to Fort Donaldson, we still own the property, we're still small.
So that way it goes in a little bit bigger, and the county taking it over, because they know we gonna go there and tell me what to do with it. And that ain't the intent.
Yeah.
When we bought that acre, we're talking about, my intent was, when we bought it, that athletic association would take care of everything there. We wouldn't be involved in that, to let them handle it.
And I think the biggest concern I've heard from most of them is they just, in Montgomery County, something similar like this happened in Montgomery County. Of course, they got a parks director, all that stuff. They can fund it. They went in and basically said they lost the fields. I mean, you can't even get on the field. If you don't have a key, you don't have an agreement, so I think a lot of them were worried, because that's the only part really that I can think of county owns in this county, you know, and it's assumed. So they didn't want that to be locked off, is what I've heard from most.
And you understand it?
Oh, yeah, I mean, the board right now is, I feel like, really good, but that can change. I mean, they can decide they're messing with sports and decide it could be a whole different group, and that's something you gotta take into consideration.
Charles, this maintenance agreement you're talking about, is that gonna better outline the costs and who's responsible? Because this, kind of briefly looking at section 4, it pretty much hangs the county for everything down there.
Yeah, and I agree with that. It pretty much, and I feel the reason that they put that language in there is because they're ultimately the landowner. Because if AASC, the second day they give it, says, well, we changed our mind, we don't run a ball field no more, y'all need to run it. Because ultimately, you're gonna be the one that have to run it unless you just wanna give it back, you know? The maintenance agreement will lay out, I'm not gonna say it'll lay out like the utility bills, but it's gonna lay out, and I feel like where it's gonna come from is it's gonna be, they're gonna get money appropriated to the non-profits like they always have. And they would have to present a budget to show that, they would have to show where their fees are going, you know. But ultimately, yes, if there's, you know, tornado blows the roof off and there's no insurance, it's gonna be on the county.
This even said we would fund the sports, which I'm 100% in favor of.
And I
just wanna know what we're looking at.
Yeah, I think,
Item number 4 is the reason we have a maintenance agreement coming.
yeah.
Just to be honest.
And I think a lot of that is, and maybe I'm not being clear enough, but when you take this on with the reverter clause to keep it as a ball field, you are responsible as a county. But hopefully we can mitigate that by putting AASC or a like organization in there with stipulations. But if they walk and we wanna keep this property with the reverter clause in the deed, we're gonna have to run some kind of sports or it's gonna go back to them automatically by law. Does that make sense? It's kind of I mean, I guess it's just there because they're trying to make the intent clear that you are taking this on, but you're gonna mitigate it by pushing it with the maintenance agreement to the AASC. Does that make sense?
You guys are gonna have plenty of more questions. You can
Feel free to call
me, call him. We'll have it all for you. I just wanted to remain transparent so that ourselves, the board of the county, and the AASC both have confidence in each other. If we go into this thing crossways, it's never gonna work out. But if we do it like we're doing it right now, it'll work out for the betterment. I think, Commissioner Gray said not long ago, they had it in the meeting, he said not long ago, they had one of the poles fall on something, and the rest of the poles' life expectancy was shot. I know one of them come back at 600,000, one of them come back at 800,000, they will never be down, our kids will be playing in the dark long before that ballpark saves $800,000. I just don't see how they can do it, so. Just wanted to get you this, y'all look over it, give me a call, let me know what other questions you have.
Just for the record, I know you checked the advances back when this was established, the ballpark was established years ago. Just for the record, there's nothing to prevent this from occurring if this is what we wanna do.
Not that I can, and this is the reason we put, Harville Ross, because they were part of some of that when everything was transferring. As far as I know, there's nothing that they
I'm
found.
100% for this, if we can make it happen, I've wanted it to happen for a long time. But you know, back years ago, some of those that have formed that all to the late felt otherwise. So just for the record, we gotta make sure.
The board has been there now, I think the last they said, they've been there like 9 years, under a 501c3, got everything back up with the state. So as far as, I don't see any reason they could. Now, I'm not saying somebody couldn't try something, but I think, as long as everybody's comfortable with the risk, I think.
Like I said, y'all ask questions in the next month, let me know, I'll get them, to the gentleman that's helping us with this, and, we'll make sure we have everything out ready to go in December. We're putting together a master plan right now with the state, myself, Charles, we've been working on it, it's a master plan for Parks and Rec, and it will tell us, what our greatest needs are as a county, and they will be presenting it to you at a later date, but that is all to do with the grant money. We have a chance for a 50-50 grant. As far as you guys are concerned, that sounds like a crazy, enormous amount. However, we don't know what that ball field's gonna come in at. It may, appraise for $1 million, and that's their match. We won't be on the hook for any of that. We will only be on the hook for what you guys as a county commission decide you want to add other than the ball field. The ball field is just a portion of this master plan. It will be parks in each community. Whatever we decide to do as a commission. So you guys will be involved on this master plan. But as far as the master plan is concerned, that park is just one piece of that puzzle. That's all it is. So, again, nothing to vote on, just want to be transparent. You guys give me questions if you got them. We will move on to item number 16. I'd like to introduce Ms. Susan BAUMAN. She is representing our animal control groups within Stewart County tonight, and she would like to make a presentation for you guys.
And I'm gonna try to talk fast because 8 o'clock is my bedtime. Hello, I'm Susan Bauman with the Humane Society of Dover. The Humane Society has recently reorganized, and we now focus more on cats than dogs. We now operate a cat rescue called Cat Adoption Team of Stewart County under the Humane Society 501c3. Tonight I am here speaking on behalf of the 5 animal welfare groups for the county. I have been hearing rumors that some commissioners are hesitant to pay out the already approved ARPA money earmarked for the animal groups. I was warned that if I chose to make this presentation, I should wear a suit of armor. Here's a brief summary of how we animal rescues have earned our suits of armor. Most of the encounters were because we were called in by the sheriff's office to assist deputies. Again, when I say we, I'm speaking for all the animal volunteers at the animal rescue group. This is graphic, but it's reality here in Stewart County. Here's a few brief examples. We've tiptoed and waded through mounds of garbage and feces to get to abandoned animals. We've climbed through windows to get an abandoned mother dog and her puppies, only to find she was so starved she had already eaten half of her litter. We have crawled under many snakes and bug-infested sheds, porches, and crawl spaces to recover abandoned, frightened animals. We have been on a call to look into an abandoned kitten inside a home where the owner had been seen for a while, only to discover the owner dead inside his home, which was an uninhabitable, broken down shack, leaky roof, and no electricity. Other sheriff office calls have called in volunteers to step over deceased human bodies to retrieve the people's pets. We have had numerous calls on dogs shot by people. The most egregious was a beagle had been shot through his penis, rendering it useless. The veterinarian had to reconstruct a new place for the dog to pee. We have been called to dispose of dead dogs piled on a vehicle after an owner systematically ran over his dogs. This was the previous sheriff's department. JD was not available that day, but he would have done it. Later, all the rescue stepped in and rescued the remaining pets that were still alive on that scene. For many years, all the animal groups have worked together to assist the sheriff's office when called out on these large emergency cases. We divide and conquer. Each group takes in an animal or two. Some volunteers from the community step in and foster a rescued animal. Yes, our suits of armor aren't something we put on from time to time. We live in our suits 24/7. Rather than volunteering a few hours a week, the nature of animal rescue is a 24/7 commitment. We spend our own money, our own water and electricity, pay our own gas for transporting animals to vet clinics, adoption events, or to send them out of the county to northern states for adoptions. Our homes and facilities are stacked with blankets and pet food we either bought or donated. Our kitchen counters are covered with stacks of paperwork. Rarely, if ever, do we go on vacation because we have rescued animals to care for at our homes. We are not a bunch of crazy volunteers running around Stewart County looking to pick up every dog or cat we see. We will, if we can, take a dog in off the street if it's on a main highway and more likely to get hit by vehicles. You see, it's less expensive to get the dog off the highway before it requires expensive vet bills after being hit by a vehicle. Hopefully, I can speak to all the concerns and questions all the commissioners have had regarding the payout. And mostly to set the record on what the money will be spent on. This is what I'm gonna cover, hopefully in about 15 minutes. Briefly, everything's gonna go pretty quick. The background, the justification, explanation of who each group is, how the 110K funds was proposed to initially divided among the 5 groups, what the money will be spent on, oversight of the money, and each group's gonna be called up and give a very, very brief introduction and some stats of their current year stats. And then we'll have a conclusion. So, we never went and asked for this money. Mayor Brandon came and invited the 5 animal welfare groups to apply for this funding, and this process started a year and a half ago. Mayor Brandon envisioned that nonprofit groups would get ARPA money, was children groups, senior groups, veterans, and animal groups. We submitted our proposal in May of 2021 with a justification and emphasis on how COVID negatively impacted our groups. And it's very important to note that to this very day, COVID still impacts all of us in our groups. You know, the people are short of staff, price increases, difficulty getting appointments for spay and neuters. The list goes on and on. And at one point, the county commissioners did vote a contingent approval of all the nonprofit funding, including the animal groups, back in January. I'm not gonna go over the justification because nobody is in dispute that we put forth, you know, that we were negatively impacted. And for some of the new commissioners, I have our proposal right here if you want a copy of it to look at at some point in time. Commissioners have questioned why are there 5 animal groups? To me, having several animal groups is a blessing to Stewart County, not a detriment. As I mentioned in my intro, on many emergency cases, we can conquer and divide to resolve an issue at hand. And in our case, here's an introduction to all the groups. You have Sagely Farm, and they specialize in pit bulls and large breed dogs and puppies. Hot Rod Garage, she specializes in small dogs, senior dogs, and dogs with special needs. Faithful Friends, on a smaller scale, takes in large dogs, small dogs, and cats as well. Humane Society, as I just explained, we now are just merely a cat rescue, and we can help a dog on a case-by-case basis. Additionally, CAT's program offers low-cost spay and neuter vouchers for people that have stray cats and kittens that come to their house. And we can't take in every hundreds and hundreds of these ins, but we can offer vouchers so they can at least stop the breeding. Scamp, they are totally separate. They're low-cost spay and neuter vouchers for people who own dogs and cats. And this is a very, very important group because they're getting to the crux of the whole animal problem, you know, the overbreeding, unwanted litters, and then you end up with, you know, abandoned animals, stray animals, and so on. So they're very important. So I wanted to address the question about consolidation because one commissioner questioned that, why aren't the groups consolidating? And they thought they had heard at some point in time that we were going to, and for the life of me, I don't know when or where that was ever said. We've never even considered it, because each group has their own 501c3, their own intake facilities, their own assets, they spend their own money, and have established their own foster home systems. And I might just interject right here. I pretty much will be close when I say JD and Lisa and Cinnamon have probably spent well over $100,000 of their own personal money. And then I just want to throw this in here because I think it makes a little sense to me. When you ask, well, why aren't these 5 animal groups going to consolidate into one big happy group? Well, I ask you, by the same token, why don't you ask all the children nonprofit groups to consolidate into one big happy group? The answer is because they have their own missions. And that's what I feel with our groups. We each have our own missions. So, well, it's actually the 4 animal groups here I'm speaking of without scam. We take in unclean strays, post combing, respond to sheriff calls in emergency situations, taking emergency hit by cars, etc. All of this is the main person, the animal care coordinator program is the one who takes in all the calls and coordinates behind the scenes with all the groups. Now, the animal care coordinator program started 7 years ago, thanks to your joiner there, and it's grown over time and it's been very successful. But when Tom Coulter resigned, I did not want to be in charge of the program. I'm trying to downsize my life, and hence going to Keatts. And so that program is now under the 501c3 of the Sagley Farm. And they've had some hiccups with people in that position. I'm mentioning this because you will see in your budget line item that Sagley's has $18,000 in the budget, and they've been given half of that so far. And that money comes from somewhere else. That comes from raising fees and your general fund. So it's really a separate request asking for this ARPA COVID relief money. Because it's really hard to tell you, but my best way on that looks a little blurry here. The Sagley Farm, this is an overview. I don't know why it's coming out blurry, but this little bit here is their home. This is a big, large garage where overflow of kennels can be. These little dots is 25 outdoor kennels, very large, covered in concrete flooring. Over here, several years ago, they were donated $100,000 to build this facility. Inside that facility, it's a 2,000 square foot facility. There's about 35 indoor kennels and puppy kennels. This yellow line is the whole property is fenced in, and that's their big puppy playground. So that gives you an overview of the magnitude of what they do out there. This is just a picture of their outdoor kennel, what they look like. This is a small one, most of them are larger than this. And this is a kennel that is inside. They have about 30 or so of these kennels. Now, and this is important, and it's gonna answer a question, you know, a big problem you had with our groups, is these kennels were purchased about 4 years ago, and the Sagley spent about 50 grand buying those from a big sporting facility that closed. So over time, they have been installing these kennels. Now we're gonna go to Hot Rod Garage, and Cinnamon's house is right here. This is a big garage where she does overflow animals. This is a 1 acre fenced-in yard. This is the facility she built, and it has 3 stripes, but it's actually 4 on each side. It's 8 indoor-outdoor kennels. And this is a tiny house here that holds small dogs. That's just a front picture of her facility, and that's the tiny house. That's just another picture of the tiny house with tiny dogs. And there's a reason why I'm showing you this picture. It's her outside part of the indoor-outdoor kennel. We'll come back to that. The Animal Clinic of Stewart County kennels and fosters the faithful friends, dogs and cats. Michael's gonna get up and tell you how many they have there. They are on a smaller scale, but they do a lot. They've got probably about 8 dogs there, but Michael will clarify that. And they jump in from time to time to help the sheriff on calls. This is the CAT program. We have 2 affordable buildings, and 1 home fosters up to 25 felines throughout their own home. But she does it in a very organized and great way. Again, private money spent on these 2 buildings is about 50 grand. I wanted to mention that the Stewart County Sheriff's Office has the PAWS Rehabilitation Program. And they've got 2 kennels there. They're gonna be building 1 more kennel for emergencies. But they take dogs from faithful friends and Sagleys that are kind of rowdy dogs, and the prisoners train them and get them so they can be adoptable. Those are the 2 kennels there at the jail. And it's important to note that not only, you know, every inch of our life is doing this, but every single Sunday, the Sagleys go to Woodlawn or Clarksville and hold adoption events. This is a mobile adoption trailer. That too was donated by a private individual at a cost of $35,000. Okay, I need you to keep going. Sydney. It's a video, but I just want to stop. Do they? Okay, and this one I go to. And the cat team, we try to go every single Sunday and spend a whole day up at PetSmart adopting out Stewart County stray animals that have been all vetted and ready for adoption. Very good, Stuart. Okay, so the division of the ARPA funds right there, at over a year and a half, the funding has changed, and the reason being is the mayor called and he said, hey, I want to give more to the Sagleys and Hot Rods because they have facilities, and you know, we want them to take in Stewart County strays. And then the remainder was the last 3 groups. Originally it was 15 each. but, a couple meetings, commissioner meetings ago, y'all were very concerned that there was a shortage of food and citizens and children were gonna starve to death. And so maybe don't spend the animal groups money because they might need the money to go to feed the starving children. And I said, well, you know, Mayor, in all due respect, don't just give us nothing. We'd be more than happy to take less. And that's why it ended up going from 15 to 10. If any of y'all own cats or dogs, you know how much money it is to feed them, vet services, space, neuters, emergencies, all, you know, this is what all the groups would spend the money on from the time they get some money, and they provide receipts for, you know, all of these things. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Training, cleaning supplies, laundry, repairs, insurance on the mobile adoption trailer. So, okay, so this is the big one and we're almost done. The biggest clarification is, which really set us all back, was somehow, and I was shown on a piece of paper that the previous mayor told you all that Sage Lee's and Cinnamon were gonna take their money to build kennels, 3 to 4 kennels. And everybody had a concern about that, about taking kennels and building them on a private property. And this is actually the verbiage I used when I submitted my proposal. I spent more time on the justification thinking that was the hurdle to get over. So I just made this short and sweet, to financially assist the operation of each group's mission is all those previous expenses on the previous slide. So the slides I told you I'd come back to, and look at those words, that they complete their respective animal shelters so they can commit 3 to 4 kennels, not buy and build. As I said, JD and Lisa already had all $50,000 worth of kennels. So they've been putting them up. So to complete them, we're talking screws, caulking, you know, whatever. So no purchase of kennels. Cinnamon already had her place built for years and established. She just wanted to spruce up the outside part of the kennels with like this grass and extra reinforcement there. And that's already been done. So that whole legal or, you know, misunderstanding is a moot point because we're just asking for the money for all these expenses. Oversight, easy peasy. You know, everybody submit receipts for how, to wherever the commission wants it to go to, you know, Heather or the oversight committee, and for whatever frequency, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually. I'm gonna call everybody up. They're gonna just do a brief introduction and a brief stats of what each facility has done so far. So, JD Sagley from Sagley Farm.
This evening, I run SPBF with my wife. We've been working with the Humane Society for about 14 years. About 6 years ago, we got our own 501c to protect our property, you know, just in case something happens. We do employ 8 kennel techs that are out there different days of the week, taking care of the dogs. A lot of food. Vet bills are very expensive. during COVID, we could not go to PetSmart to have adoption events. Like Susan said, I have 25 outside kennels, 35 inside kennels, and everyone is full. And the majority of those dogs are Stewart County dogs. Been working with Sheriff Frankie with the program out at the jail. It's been quite a success. And as far as oversight, anybody can come out to the farm anytime. I'll open the books. I'll take you around, introduce you to each dog. So.
And adopt one.
Adopt one, please. Does anybody have any questions for me?
How many kennels have you got now?
We have 35 inside my kennel, or inside my facility, and I have 25 outside kennels. The outside kennels, like she said, they're charter, they're wire welded, we've concreted the bottoms, tops, have a wooden frame with tin roofing on it. And then in the wintertime, we've already started doing it for this year, we'll take the 3 sides covered with tarps that we buy. We take in a majority of the puppies. In the facility, we have stacks that we can put the puppies in. They got trays, makes it easier. That's why we're able to have that many dogs in the facility.
Where's most of your funding come from?
Me.
Me.
And my wife.
Me.
I am a helicopter mechanic, so I sacrifice a lot of my time to go work, but then we don't do this for the money. We do this to make sure the dogs are safe. I actually had somebody ask me one time, is there money invested in dogs? I just laughed at it. I said, no, because probably a good 1/3 of my salary goes straight to the dogs.
And a lot of donations. You have a
Oh,
lot.
we do get a lot of food
cash.
donations, our Amazon wish list. I can't even begin to tell you how many people support us. As far as the other groups, everybody has their specialty. Well, my wife and I do the large dogs and the puppies because we have the area, we have the room for them. Cinnamon does the hospice, the small dogs, and the special need dogs. You know, Faithful Friends, they're smaller, but they do the same thing, and we all communicate. We do work together. It's just everybody has their own specialty. And SCAMP is a program that this county has had for years, and it has helped so many people get their dogs fixed so they're not having accidental litters.
JD, does your organization require, when you adopt out a puppy, do you require that the person get them fixed?
Oh, yes. They have to sign a form saying that within 6 months of adoption, they have to have proof that it has been altered. State of Tennessee, if they take a look at my 501c.
And if they don't have it done, what can you do? I mean, if they sign
I
it,
can go take the dog back.
you come and get the dog.
If that is in our contract, that at any time, the dog is either found at the pound, found running loose, or you rehome the dog without talking to me and my wife, we can legally go after you. And it also states in our contract that we can't take the dog back anytime if we feel the dog is in danger.
Do you require a microchip?
No.
Is there any way that you possibly could do that? I mean, I know it's more expensive.
We've been looking into it. Another group in Clarksville, they microchip all their dogs. And what our game plan is to have the microchips registered to us originally, and then the doctor can put their information on there, but it always goes to us too. Because that's another thing in the contract. If you know your dog is missing and you don't contact me, I can take you for it. It really is all about the dogs. I mean, me and my wife have been doing it for 14 years now. And we bought that house specifically so we could have more dogs. Because when we first started, we were living in Woodlawn, and we were renting. And landlord said, no, you can't have more than 2 dogs. So we started looking for property. We found 14 acres, 1900 worth of a house. And it's just slowly evolved over the years. And we started out with 1 kennel. And it's just become a way of life for us.
So with this ARPA money, if we do not have any intention of building new kennels, is that correct? Okay.
No,
And that was a lot of people's question.
Yeah, no, mine and Simmons kennels are already done. This money would be for upkeep. upkeep of my facility building, upkeep of the kennels, because some of these dogs tear up the inside kennel. But also for, like I said, targets for the weather, so we can protect the dogs from the weather. But no, I don't plan on building anymore. I don't have room for any more kennels.
I know you said that if, you were kind of broad when you said a 30-year salary went there. I'm not trying to get personal, I don't want to know your salary, but, ballpark, what do you spend?
$45,000.
$45,000 a year.
I'm gonna come up and help him out with this one.
Anya?
The wife. I made $55,000 a year, and all of that went into building the buildings, vetting the dogs, buying dog food that has gone up exponentially this year. Holy moly! I spent $600 on 10 bags of pedigree. That never would happen 2 years ago. That's what we're looking for: vetting, dog food. If there's a dog that's been hit by a car, I want to help that dog and not be hurt. If somebody tries to steal your dog, I'm gonna find that dog.
So also, you hire 8 kennel techs?
7.
7.
And that also comes out of my retirement check.
But is that included in the 45,000?
It would not be.
No.
That is strictly for dogs and dog maintenance. That comes out of my retirement check.
So you've already built all the kennels and that was 45.
Correct. Correct.
What is your annual operating fee after the kennel's been put in? What is that?
I gave that to you, this year's. It was 40,000 minus what we spent on vets and dog food, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I'm talking about like a whole number, except for the kennels being, I mean, even repairs of what you already have. Y'all have that somewhere?
So far, I'll give you an example. So far, knock on wood, we're maintaining what we need. And it's gonna happen. There's gonna be, we had a tree limb fall on a kennel. And I had to call neighbors, and I had to replace some of those kennel patches. That's 186 per. But I want the welded wire so nobody can get out into the community. We've got a secondary fence, so at least I've got that chance to get to them. There are some that can fly over those fences, but it's a chance.
And I think you can find what you're asking for in Natalie's office. They'll have to, I think you're
They would,
asking
and
for
I
about their
can-
income.
if you-
Is that what you're asking?
Just the annual report that they report in.
Natalie's office.
If you give
Because that, to
me,
your point, I think a lot of people think that it's about building new kennels, and they're just talking about operational costs that they're having now, and it's that high.
if you
And
give
that's
me
adding
your,
on top of the
Absolutely.
post-maintenance.
No, we have no plan to build more kennels.
God help me. If you give me your email address, I'll email them all to you.
It's online.
2019, 2020,
You look on the
2021.
commissioner, I'll shoot crier. Please do.
Find me.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I'm an open door. You are more than welcome to come to my house. I will open all the kennel doors and let everybody play with you at once.
No.
I'm lying. We have some aggressive ones.
All right.
All right, we got a couple more groups.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
guys. Appreciate your time.
Are you filming me? You're fabulous.
Citizens, right, from Hot Rod Garage.
Nothing right. So me and my husband own Hot Rock Garage Senior Sanctuary. Ours was initially, we've done rescuing now for about 15 years, but we've done more. We did fostering, we did transports, things like that got us involved in everything, and it wasn't until we moved here. When we moved here, the groups, the amount of strays that Stewart County had, we were getting calls all the time to help out, so my house was full of animals. I went to Korea for a tour. By the time I got back, we had more animals because we kept getting called to help out. So at that point, I just chunked all of our savings and all the money that we had made from selling our home in New York from where we came back down, and we put it into our property, which for these kennels specifically. We built out, as you saw on the diagram, we had a 1 acre that we put fences in, 2 play yards, one single on one side that was for small animals, smaller dogs, at the time, because we had people that was small size that was coming in. I was afraid that if it was gonna be any bigger dogs, I did not want mixing with the beagles, and so I had the other larger size just in case. But my specialty specifically is small animals, the Yorkies, the Terriers, the Chihuahuas, and special needs. I'm a nurse by trade, so, I know it's human, I'm a nurse human, but I mean, it's, you can alternate or overload it to that size. At least I know what to do with them. So I have like hospice, I have paralyzed dachshunds in my house. I have several blind dogs. I train some, not professionally trained, but I train some blind, both also and deaf dogs, so that they would know signals, things like that, so that we can find homes for them and dump them out. Mine are a lot of old dogs, strays that are dumped out here because nobody wants them, breeder dogs that are no longer able to be bred, so they're dumped. And those are the ones that have special needs, which are called. So my true expenses, when they come in, when you're talking about expense reports and annual reports, dentals, because their teeth are rotting out and falling out. Nobody wants to adopt a dog that can't chew, eat, has nasty teeth, right? I have mammary glands because I get those animals that have tumors, homeless things, all of them down their mammary glands because they've been bred too long and they can't, produce it anymore, so they're dumped. Because they're not spayed at the time when they should have been spayed, and instead they were bred causing these tumors. I have to take those off, nobody wants those dogs, okay? Mine are specialized people that I have to go and find. I don't go to events because I don't take my dogs out to these events. I network my dogs. One of my biggest things I do is about every 2 weeks, I do a transport. I take dogs north, okay? I get them out of your county, all right? I can provide reports, I can show you numbers of how many dogs I've taken out of your county to other states that have pre-approved. I have researched those rescues to make sure they do the same process as I do in order to get that dog, okay? I do home visits, I do reference checks, I thoroughly stalk my person before they're allowed to have any of my dogs. And then I stalk them afterwards because I want to make sure they know that I'm available, they don't get out there and they're by themselves, and that dog does not get returned, okay? I provide the full, I pay for all their shots, their dental, any vetting costs. I get a spray and neuter, I pay all costs. I get a microchip as well that I work through a program. And so all my dogs, when they leave my hand, they are spayed, neutered, up to dental shots, and microchip. Everything is taken care of. I pay all costs up front. So right now, I currently have, within the last, in 2020, I spent over, in vetting costs alone, I spent over $36,000. In 2021, I got my 501c approved when I got back, so in 19, at the end of 19 is when my approval came through for my 501c3, and then the following year is when, for the fiscal, as far as, that's why my 2020 is when I gave you those stats. Then the 2021, I paid a little over $27,000 in that year. Once you fill up, you can't, once you fill up, right, your numbers will decrease because you have no place to put another animal, therefore, obviously, if you're full, you can't take any more animals in, right? So, my stats so far, I have managed to, and I cut costs everywhere as I can. I am looking for new programs around so I can get lower costs on certain things. I have spent a little over $5,000, and that was just for the first few months of the year. For this year, that's just vetting costs. That does not include food, anything. I have an accountant, a bookkeeper, not me, but a bookkeeper that takes care of all that, follows all my annual reports, all my stuff for the state, federal, whole 9 yards. Because I'm good at numbers, but I'm not that good. So I just do dogs. I'm full-time active duty. I don't retire for another 18 months. My husband is 27 years active duty from Fort Campbell. We retired. He takes care of him during the day, or he's home. So he takes care of him. When I'm off, I take care of them with him. I get home from work, I take care of him. I'm a nurse, I work for the command group at the hospital on post. I you name it, and every 2 weeks I transport from here to Paducah for the first leg of a very long day of getting my dogs up north to some states up there and rest of the I think I hit everything. Is there any questions? My kennel is an 8-stall kennel. All right, it has 8 stalls, 4 on one side, 4 on the other. They're 6x6 in the inside, so it's very large sections, and they have the nice greenway on the outside with 10-foot runs. Then I can open up any one of them and let them out play. They can be individually played, they can go back in, so the safety of every dog. My garage was a 4-bay garage. One whole bay has been turned into a kennel functioning with an indoor-outdoor. That's where all the beagles are housed. At one time I had about 15 beagles, now I'm down to 8, currently in my care. I took half my yard on that side and I put a fence so that the beagles would have their own what I call Beagleville, and they hang out and play on that side. And then on the other side, which is the side where I can maintain better, like control myself, I have seniors and those that are getting up in age and will probably, they passed. I've probably been holding a paw about 28 times in the past 2 years that I've had to go in and say goodbye. So these are animals that people have dumped in your county, but they don't want to do nothing with, and they don't want to be there. So instead, I've got to be there. So you can thank the people of Stewart County for that. Okay? I'm sorry?
Thank you.
No. It's a very hard, it's not an easy job. I mean, it's not.
Where's your kennel located?
The kennel is in Big Rock, sir.
Where is it?
Oh, I'm sorry, down, Big Rock Road on, Clint Mathis. And then I have 10 dogs inside my house. Now that takes where they're all at. I've had about that in my property.
Are there any more questions for Cinnamon? We gotta keep moving
Yep.
on. We've had Sue at that time.
Any? We're good?
Okay, Michael. Michael Toon from Faithful Friend.
Yes. I don't have any of the budget with me, and the person that handles all that, she is on vacation right now. But since January 1st, we've taken in 29 dogs and 13 cats/kittens. Right now, we've got 8 dogs and 4 cats and kittens up for adoption. We're getting approximately 15 to 20 calls or Facebook messages a week for us to take dogs, surrender dogs, people find strays, which we're completely full at this time. We did take one in emergency from the sheriff's department. From a phone call, the dog was in probably 25 pounds underweight when we took the dog in. We do not take animals from other counties because we've got too many here to deal with. We will also help people in need of food and some medical issues when needed.
Thank you. Any questions for Michael? Thank you, Michael. Carolyn Jenkins from Stamp Program.
We don't take in any animals. We are a spay-neuter program only. We do spend our own money to help people with a low-cost spay-neuter program. This year, since the 1st of January, we have spent over $12,000 just on our portion, and the owner usually matches that. And we have also an education program through the school. We furnish them 5 issues of Kindness magazine for the kids in kindergarten, 1st and/or 2nd grade. We have been in the county for 18 years doing this. And I think that pretty much covers what we do. If anyone has any questions, I'll try to answer. No one?
And finally, program. Currently, we have 40 felines in our care with a long wait list to come in. January to present, we've taken in 142. We've adopted out 129. We've done 121 spay and neuters. And year-to-date on vet bills and food and supplies, we've spent $18,000. And we're gonna wrap it up. Yay. Conclusion. Does a one-time payment of COVID relief money solve the animal control problem at hand? No. Is this one-time COVID relief payment merely a Band-Aid on an animal control problem? Yes. However, the sheriff and the new AC committee will be looking into a bigger picture plan to hopefully resolve many of the stray animals and animal control problems in Stewart County. Meanwhile, these ARPA funds must be spent by December 2024. Relief money was sent to families, businesses, states, counties, and it was always meant to be financial relief to every one of these entities. So tonight we request the commission to follow through with the initial plan to provide relief money to seniors, children, veterans, and animals. The former has been paid out and the animals have yet. We hope this presentation has answered all your questions and concerns and clarified the expenditures. And you've heard from the various groups. So we respectfully ask the commissioners, and I'll put it in your hands, how much money do you want to spend for the groups, and you can divvy it out how you feel appropriate, to include as a safety net, pay it out in 3 years. Because you've got this year, next year, and then 24. So, for example, old Sue with a bad heart might die and the CAP program goes away. So, you know, that's just a safety measure for y'all to consider. And I appreciate your
Do you have any discussion on that presentation? All right, we'll move on to item number 17 on your agenda, and that is new business.
I think the sheriff had some new business, so I'd like to suspend the rules and allow him to speak.
Motion on the floor, suspend the rules. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sheriff, you have the floor.
What all you commissioners have in front of you is a pay comparison study for our correction officers as well as deputies. It's also based on, it covers some of the county's population, similar to ours. It's also the surrounding county. I got divided into 2 different groups there. Now, there is one mistake on there. Cheatham County is not $29.95, it's $21.95, and that was my mistake. I'm not, obviously not asking for this now. You will see in the very back is the general range of what I'm asking for, and I'm not asking for it now, but I will be asking to bring something very similar to this to the finance committee for next year's budget in July. And realizing that when you look at these figures, we're waiting until July, we're going to be another year behind on these salaries. The deputies and the correction officers do a great job, but they deserve to be paid for it. If you'll look at how far behind when you look at these totals, when you get a chance to take this and look at it at your leisure, just to see how far behind we are. Come across the stat not too long ago, based on population, when you have got the population, Stewart County, we make 95% more arrests, or make more arrests than 95% of other counties in Tennessee. So my deputies and correctional officers work, and I want you to remember this also. Unlike other agencies in this county, we work 24/7. They don't get to come home at 4 o'clock, they don't go home at 6 o'clock, they don't get home at 10 o'clock. We're 24/7, and that's who they call. They need somebody after those hours, so we don't have the luxury of doing it. My guys are out there, our correction officers are working. I am losing deputies and correctional officers to other counties, for more pays, and that's obvious. Now, the thing is now that correctional, my deputies, losing wages to other counties, and some counties, 2 or 3 counties over, are giving them not only more pay, but they're giving them take-home car. They don't care where they live. They can get a new deputy, and they'll give them a take-home car. Doesn't matter where they are, they'll give you a take-home car. I am trying to be a mass exit, to be honest with you. I've asked my people to give me at least July 1st if they can. Now, I realize the families come first, but give me to July 1 to try to work with the commission, work with the mayor. I've talked to some of the commissioners, the new ones obviously I haven't talked to. I had to come in and sit down with the mayor today and he talked about it. But you know, I promise you, if I lose these experienced officers, I cannot keep up the level of service that we're putting out. And I think if you ask the citizens of this county, and you can talk to most commissioners, know the level of service we're providing, what we're doing, is the best it's been in many years. And I know I'm saying that, I'm sheriff, but I'm not. It's not just that. People are telling me that I know it is. So I can't continue to provide that if I lose these experienced people. Another thing too, and I think the county attorney will chime in on this. We've not had a lawsuit filed against the jail or the sheriff's office in 4 years, and that's almost unheard of. So my guys are doing a job, but they deserve to be paid for it. So I'm just asking you to look at these, and obviously we'll address this when the time comes, but we'll have to look at doing something for these people. I just can't look them in the face, and I got correction officers making $11.90 an hour. And nobody else around here is even close to that.
You go to McDonald's.
It's one thing for new business, be old business, but some kind of business. I'm on the safety committee was, not on there no more, but I'd like to find out what the world's going on with the dispatch. We decided on the dispatch, what the city's gonna do, you know, Cumberland City pays, Forestry Division pays, what has the city decided to do or not do?
I don't know a whole lot about it. That's just kind of the city. I know the previous mayor sent over a bill and the city decided not to pay it. They are still in that. My working relationship with the city is a little bit better. We have been talking about some things and about them getting paid under state statute. I think I'm saying that correct. They do not have to pay. But that's a partnership. That's why we should be partners with those guys, you know. So we're working on it. The best I can say, we're working on it. They're working on it. We hope to come to a mutual agreement, but I can't guarantee that. I'm just working for our county to get as much as they can get, you know. And I know at one time we paid, or the city paid us $15,000, a little over $15,000 short of $16,000. I would love to see them pay, you know, 20, 22, 25. I mean, and when that happened, it was a gentleman's agreement. The city handled that business, and they said we'll pay for half of one dispatcher. That's how that all unfolded many years ago. That dispatcher wage has went up. I would like to see us continue a partnership with them. And that's something that we're working towards. We're working on that. It's definitely not a done deal, but the city didn't want to pay $56,000. And I also think that was a bad number. But I feel like the city does owe something for dispatch. And they're not against that. We just gotta sit down, become a partnership with them and figure out what that number is. We clearly, in this room, we would think that it's more than 15,000. They definitely think that it's not 56. we have to sit down and come to an agreement with that, and we're all working on it. That's as close as I can get you.
What about the dispatch situation? Is that where they had all the radios, and you had a problem, didn't understand it, but has that been resolved?
You talking about the
You know, when you initially come off the channel or?
radio?
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, it's all, now, I didn't hear everything that was said, but I said my piece to the commission the last time this subject was brought up about the radios. Clint Mathis was not the bad guy in this. Clint gave you the option. I'm not the bad guy in that. I did exactly for the safety of my people, and I didn't cause that problem. I've since, when we had the last meeting, I told them to bring the city, namely the chief of police, bring me a list of radios that they had and all that, and sit down and talk to me about it. That's yet to be done, but I am not gonna change my stance on it unless they show me something else. That's just where I am. And I do not believe for 1 minute that we're putting anybody in danger. I've got my chief deputy here, I've got a commissioner here on the board, commissioner who's a deputy, and I've got Clint Mathis. And if any one of them three can tell me we're putting somebody in danger for what we're doing, I'll change my mind. And I don't think you're gonna have anybody tell me that.
So did the city bring you a list? Sure.
Ain't brought me nothing.
Sheriff, would you be satisfied if, or if you added just specifically the full-time guys that have a radio in the city? Would you be satisfied with that?
I said I'd be willing to talk about it. But I'm not committed to that right now.
The 57,000 was recommended by the state, correct?
No.
Or CTAS?
Right, CTAS.
Okay. What did they recommend for the other agencies?
We did, now, I can't speak for the previous mayor, but I could probably speak to the fact that we didn't ask what, I don't know how we would even go about that, speaking for the federal government, you know, I don't know how they would.
Well, if they give a recommendation on one agency, they should give a recommendation on every agency that uses dispatch, correct or incorrect?
The recommendation was given because the city asked for it.
Right.
They didn't want to pay the 47,000, so they asked for that. So
I understand.
So the other cities didn't ask for it. I think that's pretty much
Just one?
yeah, because it was just that, because the city asked for it, not because we asked for it.
Do you know what company city pays for service?
I have an idea, but I would defer that to.
Yeah, I don't know exactly, Heather probably got it in front of her, I suspect, I'm guessing.
I don't wanna miss you by a dollar.
The CTAS also pays the CTAS, talking to the CTAS, that was a formula to figure out what the city should pay. And every agency that pays into that was on that. They're not saying it's required. It's a recommendation that they give to counties and cities when they're trying to work an agreement where they can figure out a number.
Right.
Because some people don't know if you gauge it off the calls, they don't know if you gauge it off the number of personnel, so there's a formula, but CTAS, of course, they would not stand by for me.
So I guess my question is, if we're gonna take the recommendation of CTAS for one agency, why did we not take the recommendation for all agencies?
That's before September the 1st for a bad answer. I can't answer that. I'll be glad to send that formula back and work with CTAS if you'd like me to and see what that is. I don't know.
No, that's just a general question. I don't.
Yeah, no, it's a very good question.
Mr. Mayor, how long has it been since the city's made their $15,000 payment?
22 years. Last year,
How long?
I was gonna say 24 months, but I think it was the year before last.
Yeah, the contract expired, I think, in 2020. It was an annual contract. It was interlocal agreement, I guess is what you would call it. It expired, I think, in 2020, but I could be wrong on that. I think it was started.
How long?
This last budget year, they did not make a payment when it was due.
So 1 year?
1 year.
What does it cost Stewart County as a whole annually?
For
And then we're trying to split that up and probably up the division.
Well, so I can tell you what I've learned so far, and that's just working with Mr. Mathis, is it is very complicated, because the 911 committee is their own entity, and they actually pay Stewart County. We don't, to say what is Stewart County out money, if I'm correct, is this 911 board pays the county
They pay $95,000.
Approximately $100,000 a year to operate that.
The dispatcher salaries, just, this is off the cuff, so please don't hold this to that, it's around 400-ish. Just off the cuff.
Let's see, the thing is, you can't say here's a whole pie. There's 8 agencies using it, let's divide it 8 times. I mean, I guess you could do it that way, but I'd rather not, because you got call on it. I mean, it wouldn't be fair to charge EMS for the same price that you're gonna charge Dover or the sheriff's office when they don't use the radio frequency as often.
Dover is our number 2 person. The sheriff's office is the first.
So I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and say if CTAS said $50,000 or $57,000 for Dover, the sheriff's office would ultimately be more, correct or incorrect?
I think that's just, it's coming out of county.
Yeah, it's a county general.
It's county, they're county general.
Yeah, I mean, I can at least speak back to 2009 since I've been here. The amount did not change. The city paid just under $16,000, is what the mayor said, and that's for the city of Dover, and the city was paying $2,400 per year. It's an annual agreement. Since I took my position, every year that annual agreement had to be signed between the dispatch of the county and the dispatch of like the mayor of Cumberland City or the mayor of Dover. Last year was the first year Cumberland City paid their $2,400, but Dover did not due to the disputed amount.
So the mayor and the communications director would have to sign it. Who would have to sign that, I'm sorry?
The agreement is signed by the county mayor, the city mayor, and is it you, Clint, the EMA director? Yeah, and the EMA director.
And our problem is with the amount from the old contract to the new contract. Is my head telling me that right?
The initial, yes, sir, that's exactly correct. That was the initial.
Pretty good jump in money, wasn't it?
My understanding, they didn't even want to pay the regular amount that last year.
They didn't want to pay the regular amount?
Yeah.
It was approved, I was on that council when it was approved, and it was approved to pay that regular amount.
Then they just decided not to pay it out.
That, when they got the $56,000 bill, they decided not to pay that amount.
Well, they offered to pay $15,000.
You know, I know those answers, but I really don't want to speak for the city, because now I have to fight for who I'm fighting for, and I don't want, so the short answer is yes. Yeah, they actually did. To be honest, they agreed with the mayor on an amount that was higher than $15,000, and, that didn't work out. He backed out and said, no, I won't. This is what you asked for, pretty much. This is what you're getting, and you give them a $56,000 bill.
Refused the offer. They offered to pay $15,000, the mayor refused to take.
You can ask Mr. Mathis, I think they approved to pay just a little more than that, am I correct? In the initial agreement? Is that, yeah.
There was an agreement to pay the roughly $16,000, a verbal.
Right.
And then I was directed by the former administration to
Not to take
that.
They-
Send a different.
They offered to pay. But it was a 15 or 16,000 they offered to pay. And,
Yes.
and, it wasn't stick.
And I don't want it to get twisted, it has got twisted a little bit, but we're working on getting it back. I've spoken with him, with Charles, I speak with him 5 times a day, but 2 times a day is on dispatch and getting a partnership back, you know, with every agency. Does anybody have any further discussion in new business?
Oh, I hate to bring this up because it's so late, but I do have an item for new business. I talked to Charles today. The mayor and I were at a Kiwanis Club meeting the other day, and Jay Reedy came, and he mentioned that he was very interested in what elected officials wanted to see happen in their counties. So, later on that day, I sent him an email, it's just myself, but as an elected official, some things that I would like to see happen in our county. A lot of it had to do with my job, but also as an elected official. I'd like to see a mental health counselor in draw up a resolution, you know, that says that we want something like that. And, so I did a stop talk to Charles today, and, he actually talked to Jay on the phone while I was sitting there. And his recommendation is for each one of us, Charles, you can tell me if I'm wrong, for each one of us to come up with some kind of idea, some kind of project, some kind of something that they would like to see happen in our county. I would love to see a mental health counselor in our health department, and that would be something that I would put on there, but, you know, maybe Eric wants to see something happen with the schools, or something like that, to where we can send that off, and tell me if I'm wrong, that we could send that list of ideas to Jay, and he can take it to the state legislator with him when they get back into session, and he can say, hey, I had this from Stewart County, and this is what they want to see happen in their county, and, you know, then he can push harder for us, because we all agree on, this is something that we would like to see happen in our county. There may be some, you know, things that I like, because, or that I'd like to see happen because what I do for a living, or what Vince does for a living, but it still would benefit the county. So, I'd just like to ask for everybody to come next meeting with some ideas that you would like to discuss, that we could, you know, that we could add to that list, and send to Jay, so when he goes to the legislator in January, he'll have that in his hand.
Essentially, a lot of counties bring ideas at the beginning of their fiscal year, and they put them in a hat, and they start drawing them out, and that's what they try to work on. Jay is looking at it from how their legislative body works. They draw a draft deal, send it to the committee. So your resolution would essentially be what the commission would like to see happen in Stewart County. He takes that he can work with the senators and whoever else to get things done. So Jay, I mean, I think he'd be standing here, he would tell you that he'll work for Stewart County, but if he has nothing to work on, he's not gonna call and say, I need something to work on. So this is not really a resolution passing a mental health counselor, it's a resolution to say, hey, state, we need you to help us with this list. So it can be one item, or it can be, you know, 28 items, whatever you want to put on. So that's, if that helps make sense.
Would that be something we could bring the school board members into, as well as ideas?
I imagine it could.
Talking to Jay, he gets it from most counties, he said it's a lot. Sometimes it's way out in left field, sometimes it's very simple things. So I think for your individual districts, you could probably pull ideas together.
And I think that, I think with some of the, working, you know, our committees, if we get down and put our heads together and, you know, decide some things that we want, just get to work on, you know, just on ideas to improve our county. And a lot of that, you know, if Jay has that in his hand, and he sees, you know, maybe he becomes aware of a grant that's available to put a mental health counselor in the, you know, in our health department, then he can bring that to us, or he can let Charles know that that's available, and that we can, you know, that we could apply for something like that. And then, oh, sorry, Charles, I'm ready to go on too. Do you want, I think that you said you sent it to the mayor as well about the, class action lawsuit with Meyer.
Yeah.
Is
It's
that?
been with the prior mayor and I don't know.
I did, I read over today.
Okay. Well, I'll just speak just quickly. There is a class action lawsuit similar to the one that was against the opioid companies, against the Jewel company. And it's something that we as a county could sign on to, just like we did with the opioid settlement. Of course, that would, you know, become later, but it is something that, I think you sent it, I think Charles sent it to Director Notary too. It's something the school board could get on board with as well. And, you know, the opioid settlement will start, I think we've already got at least one payment. All right. We got 3 payments, but, you know, those will start coming every year, and it's just, you know, we can do the same thing with Jewel, with that Jewel class action lawsuit.
That's the way I read it. The county would have to agree to go into it with this particular law firm who would receive, I think it's at 25%.
Which is lower than the national standard. Most attorneys get 33 at least.
Right.
So we would have to agree by a certain day if we want to be a part of that, which, you know, the cigarette lawsuit is huge, back in the 60s. So if it's as big as that, it could be thousands and thousands, it could be hundreds, but
I
it should
think
be
it'll
pretty
be
fun.
big. It'll be big.
business? Motion to adjourn by Commissioner Dorr. All in favor say aye.